Olá, eu sou a Sofia, faço parte da direção do Jornal Teixeira e vou aqui entrevistar.
Well, my name is Lee, but online a lot of people know me as Beans because I stream on Twitch and like play games and that sort of thing.
Nice to have you here. The first question, I asked a few people around the school, and I was kind of disappointed because I got barely any questions, because most of them didn't know what was Tourette's in the first place. So they really didn't have any question besides what was it. So that's my first question for you. What is Tourette's?
I mean, I'm not like a super expert on it, but just as someone who like lives with it, I know the general like overview of it. So it's essentially just a condition where the main outward symptom is something called tics, where you make involuntary movements or sounds. And those can sometimes be really complex, like they can be like doing a dance, or it could be something like snapping your fingers, or like I wink a lot or like blink my eyes a lot. And also the verbal ones can be really simple, like they could just be making a noise, or they can be like whole sentences as well. So it can look like very different for a lot of different people, but the main symptom that a lot of people see is like those tics, which are just, those
Yeah.
involuntary like movements or sounds.
That was an amazing explanation, much better than
Thank
the one
you.
I gave those people. And how is it diagnosed?
Usually the diagnosis has to, obviously you have to go to a professional doctor. For me, my understanding is you have to go to a neurologist, which is how I got diagnosed. In order to be diagnosed with Tourette's, your tics have to have started before the age of 18, and have been present for at least a year. And you must have, I believe, at least one verbal tic and one physical tic. It might be more than that now though, since the criteria sometimes changes. There are actually people who only have physical tics or only verbal tics or vocal tics, but that's not Tourette's. That's referred to as a tic disorder usually.
Oh, so that actually answers another question that I had later, which if it can appear like later in life, or it just has to appear like that age or younger.
Yeah, so there are some people who have like tics show up later in life, like after they turn 18, but usually that's not called Tourette's. Like there are like different names for that. There's like adult onset like tic disorders, like that sort of thing. But that's like very atypical. Like usually you will see signs of it beginning around the age of like 14 is pretty common.
Okay. And how old were you when you first had tics?
I've had tics like since I was like very, very small. Like the first one I like remember was I think I was like 5 or something like that. And I was just walking with my parents, and all of a sudden like I cussed about like the wind being like it being like really, really windy. And my parents were like, what the heck? Like, why is our little child like saying this? Um, and those sort of things just kind of persisted and got better for a while, got worse in middle school, got better, and then COVID hit and my tics got worse again. And I learned a little bit about Tourette's, and then finally was able to get a diagnosis a little bit before I turned 18.
Okay, there's one thing that's
So
curious.
wait, sorry, I just want to
No, it's
clarify real
okay.
quick. You can be diagnosed after 18 as long as like the symptoms were present before you were 18.
Oh,
I just
okay.
wanted to clarify, yeah.
Um, every person I spoke to about this, about you, about what I was going to do, every single one of them, or at least 99%, spoke about swearing. Like most. Is that like everyone has a take with a cuss word, or it's just
Um,
something?
so it's actually very uncommon for people to have with Tourette's to like swear. It's like I think 10% of them or something like that swear. The thing is, just a lot of people who are, in the media with Tourette's, like, there's a Twitch streamer named Sweet Anita who has a lot of like
Yeah.
tics where she curses, and that's called corporalia, which is a specific type of tic. So there's like all sorts of different types, but not all of them are swearing, and it's not that common for people to have like swearing tics. It just, some people have them.
Yeah, it's more maybe in the media, because every single person asked me. I thought that was curious.
Yeah, that seems to be the one that people are most interested in, just because they're like, wow, that's offensive, or an offensive thing to say, like, you know,
But that was
and they
like the
get kind of
first
like,
thing I would say like,
yeah, I
yeah,
hear
she
that
has
a lot from
Tourette's.
people.
Like first thing. So she swears a lot, and like, okay.
Yeah, that's kind of a stereotype, or like, I guess misinformation that gets spread a lot. Like some people with Tourette's, like you might not even know that they have it. They might like only blink or make like a small noise that you can't even hear. Like it's definitely not always swearing.
There's something more like complex
Yeah.
Tourette's. And uh, what is like living with Tourette's?
I mean, I didn't know that I even had it until like a lot like later in life for me. So I feel like it kind of just like was the same as growing up normally. It was like the only thing I really had issues with was I remember like being really, really nervous in social situations, especially in middle school when it was really quite bad. Because I would um I would always remember like knowing that I would shout things out without meaning to, but not knowing why. And so I just thought I was really impulsive and had to like, just control myself. So I remember always going into conversations and thinking, okay, I'm not gonna make like this sound, or I'm not gonna like shout something out. I really like I'm gonna like hold myself back like from saying this, and then it's still happening. And me being like what's wrong with me? Like why does
Yeah,
this happen? And like it causing, some people to like be a little bit confused or just like not want to talk to me because they thought I was like a bit weird. So like definitely when you don't understand it, it's like very, very difficult to sort of come to terms with, because you blame yourself for like not
yeah.
being able to like control yourself.
Um, let me tell you the question. There's actually I saw about Sweet Anita. She's talked about one day, I don't remember, holding your ticks. It's that possible?
Yeah. So how well someone can suppress their tics is like different based on like, a lot of different factors. Like some people can suppress them like really well. Some people just can't suppress their tics, and like they might not even have like that severe Tourette's, or they might have really severe Tourette's, and that has nothing to do with like how well they can suppress them.
Yeah,
Um, so like for me, I find suppression like fairly difficult, I'd say. Like it's not something that I can do like super duper easily unless I'm solely focusing on that, and I won't be able to listen to like the conversations around me and things like that. Like I find it difficult to think about much else if I'm trying like not to have a tic. Um, but also like there are ways of, I guess, naturally suppressing, like when you play instruments. A lot of people say they don't have tics. When you sing, when you hum, when you're just really, really focused on something. For me, when I get like really, really into a conversation and I'm like, going with my thoughts, I tend to have like very, very few tics. But for some other people, like that doesn't work, so it kind of just depends on the person.
it just because I saw a video, I don't know if you see it, like she was trying to suppress it for 10 minutes or something, and
Mm.
then after that got like really bad.
Yeah, I would say that's pretty accurate generally. Like suppressing does result in like worse tics afterwards. I don't know the mechanism why. We don't really know like why Tourette's happens or what causes it. So, it might be related to that, but a lot of people do experience like if they have to suppress, like that it will get worse after, or that like the feeling of it will like build up, and like it like almost like it's not that it hurts, it's just like very uncomfortable, and it feels like an
Yeah.
itch that you can't scratch.
Um, is it like what does it feel like to have a tick? Do you feel anything, or it just
Well, a lot of people assume that it hurts, which it doesn't. It like whenever I do like a movement, it feels the same as if I was doing it voluntarily. So like my shoulder is shrugging right now, like as a tick. But if I just shrug it like this, like on purpose, it feels the same. It's just that, like it's involuntary. Um,
yeah?
the only difference is that right before it happens, I can kind of feel like almost like an electric sort of like current type of feeling, like a tickle, that like I feel it in like my chest a lot. Some people say they feel it like in the back of their head. But there usually is like a premonitory like feeling before the tick like happens, where you feel like it's like coming up, and that's when you would like know to suppress, or if you can't suppress, then it's coming.
Yeah, I
But
saw.
yeah, it just feels
Sorry,
like that.
sorry.
Oh no, you're okay. Sorry.
I saw a video with Don Stever. It's actually where I got the idea. And there was this girl was faking, I think, the idea in Tourette's. I don't know if you remember. She would like said she could like feel it in the head, like that she was going to have something. Does that happen? Happens?
Yeah, I don't know particularly for DID since I don't have it, and I'm not an expert on it. But like if someone says that they are having like a premonitory urge for like a tick, it can kind of happen whenever. It's, I guess the feeling of it is like a little bit different for everyone, or they just like describe it differently. But like there is usually like a premonitory urge before someone has a tick.
Okay. And what is something that helps your tics, like an activity or?
While it's happening, I would say like something like writing or playing an instrument, like playing the guitar, the violin, or singing for me. But like overall, like lifestyle wise, what I find is like decreases them a lot is working out, like and getting like a lot of exercise. So like, lifting weights, going for runs, that sort of thing. I definitely found like when I came to college and wasn't able to like do as much physical activity because I just didn't have the time, my tics like got worse. So just like keeping yourself healthy, trying to stay like stress free, that sort of thing can help a lot with having tics.
And is there medication?
There is, yeah. So I don't know of like all the medications, but generally, an issue that a lot of people have with them with medicines for Tourette's is that they cause depression. So I was on one called guanfacine earlier in the year, which also treats ADHD, because there are a lot of medicines that you can't take with Tourette's, like you know, things like a lot of stimulants, some antidepressants you can't take because it will make your tics worse. And so I was on guanfacine because it's one of the only ADHD medications that doesn't affect Tourette's or is supposed to actually help Tourette's as well. And it did definitely decrease my tics, but I found that it just like wasn't working for me because it made me depressed. So it's like,
Oh.
You have to kind of like balance if you want to take medication or not. And for me, that just like, I couldn't justify the trade-off.
Yeah, so you are currently like.
Yeah. I'm currently on just ADHD medication that doesn't affect Tourette's. So nothing for it now.
And what I actually had this idea from Sweet Anita as well. That she was talking like her worst tic, which I think she said it's a tic where she says, this is not a tic. And what did you consider your worst tic, or you don't have any?
I don't know. I guess I had one before where like I used to just kind of like start walking in like a direction, which doesn't sound like too bad, except I would have it a lot while I was like waiting to cross the street. And like while there were like one or two times where like I did it and like there was like a huge truck barreling down the road and like one of my friends had to like grab me back. So that was pretty unfortunate. Things like that. And then also things like, any sort of slurs or like just things that are like obviously really offensive, because if you don't have time to explain to people, like, like they're naturally going to get very upset if they hear you like saying those things in public. And I have had like a few of those before, but thankfully not like too frequent. But I would consider those my worst ones.
And I actually think I don't have any more questions. So thank you so much for having you here. It was really great. Thank you. There's anything else you want to add, or?
I guess just like the one main thing that like for a lot of people who don't know what Tourette's is that I always want them to know is like it's really important to understand that it's not what the person actually wants to say, or like, oh, it's what they're secretly thinking or what they secretly really want to say. It's usually just, something they're worried about saying because it's inappropriate, or it can just be something like entirely random, like, like just a random word. Like I developed a tic like earlier in the year that was like, epinephrine, like the like drug, like, and I was like, okay, like, like why would I want to say that? It doesn't really like,
yeah, I
it
remember there
doesn't
was a
correlate.
confusion. Like, um, some people were saying that was what they were thinking, and yeah, I remember
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah, I think that's really important because that's not what the person is thinking. It is really just like a random thing that happens.
So thank you so much for being here, and we hope we see you next time.
Thank you.